webinar series that's going to be launching. And I always do this. I'm never prepared. I always have to remember, and I have to. I'm here with the one and only Jessica Weaver.
Hello.
Of Time to Refine. Carolina Denhard here. Obviously, I'm a divorce attorney with Linda Berry McCormick. I am in my office, again, dealing with so many issues that are impacting the lives of women during this pandemic. And Jessica and I really have come together to provide a webinar series to break through all the fear about what's happening in your marriage, fear about what's happening with your money, and most importantly, to help you refine. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you, Carolina. I am so excited. It begins this Thursday. I can't believe it. We have a ton of women signed up. We have a few spots left. And really, why I love what you do and why we've come together is that 90% of women are intimidated to talk about money. They're scared to talk about money. But I feel you're very similar to our approach, and we have to make it relatable. We have to make it engaging and not so scary or terrifying. And that's really what we're going to do over the course of 4 Thursday evenings. You can bring your glass of wine. You can bring happy hour to it. We're going to start chipping away at the fear of it and how you can start moving forward and refining your life. It's kind of like,
I mean, the biggest issue that my clients face when they know that their marriage is dead, or it's just not what they want, and it hasn't been for a long time, is will I be able to make it out there on my own? And they sound like such simple words, but those words are stifling. It's like having cement boots on. If you don't think you're going to be able to make it, and some of the women say things like, I don't need to live in my Short Hills mansion. I just want to know that I'll be able to afford, a nice place to live and go out and I haven't worked in 25 years. What do I do? And then what happens when I retire? What will happen to me then? And usually what happens is they don't make that next step because the fear stops them. And by no means are we encouraging divorce, but if you're at that stage in your life where you feel you need to make a change, do not move ahead because you don't understand what that process will look like.
Yeah, it's scary to do it alone. It's very scary when all the decisions are on you. It is tough to make a decision. And I hear this from women after divorce, after losing their spouse. They are terrified to make a mistake. And like you said, it makes them completely pause. They're just paralyzed in that fear. And we don't want that. We want to keep moving forward so that you don't feel disappointed or frustrated, overwhelmed, stressed. And really, we talked about this before, when we try to do it alone, you don't realize how many risks you're taking.
Absolutely.
Consequences of the bad choice.
How could you navigate your own financial future when you're not a financial planner, right? And how can you navigate your own divorce where if you go to Google, God forbid you're looking up an old law or a different state. I mean, I had a client yesterday say, well, in Connecticut, they do this. They may do this in Connecticut, but they don't do this in New Jersey. It is critical that if you want to make any type of life change, whether it's medical, legal, financial, you have to go to the right people, because what happens, and I'm sure you see this all the time, is that after the fact, you have buyer's remorse. You say, I should have gotten the right advice. I should have gotten sound advice. Now what? Well, in my situations, a lot of the clients are then stuck with horrible marital settlement agreements, and I can't always come in after the fact and fix it. And you made a good point earlier today when we were speaking that your clients do not experience the growth in their investments if they try to go out alone. Isn't that true?
Yeah, Morningstar put together a whole study, and they found that people who work with an advisor are active in their plan earn over 4.5% more each year. That's a huge difference. And it's not about just the investments. It's about making very intentional decisions with your money towards your goals. And when you work with somebody, like you're an expert in your field, you know all the ins and outs. It's impossible for somebody going into a divorce who's never been in the legal field to know all the ins and outs. And instead of going crazy trying to figure it all out on their own, I would much rather pay somebody. I would much rather pay an expert so I know it's going to get done right.
Yeah, it's definitely peace of mind. And, of course, it's hard work, because when you are thinking about, from my perspective, when you're thinking about getting divorced, you're starting to speak a new language. Not only are you dealing with this emotionally because you were Mrs. Smith for, let's say, 15, 20 years, 5 years, I don't care how long it was your identity. You were somebody's wife, you were somebody's mother. And although you'll remain a parent, you will not be a family unit as you know it. So you're dealing with a lot of psychological turmoil, right? Which is why the Divorce Dynasty platform also has therapists on board, because you have to take care of your insides while we're dealing with the outside. But if you start navigating this on your own without knowing what you are entitled to or what risks you have, what exposure you have, you will undoubtedly make a lot of mistakes.
Yes. And when you make a mistake with money, it can have a consequence tomorrow or 10 years, 30 years down the road. And I don't know if you get this, Carolina, but whenever I work with a woman who's going through divorce, just after divorce, and I ask them, what do they want for their life? They can't answer the question. They're like, I haven't had time to think about it.
It's too scary. It's too scary. The concept of, especially long-term marriages, as I just said, it's the identity issue, but it's also the downsizing issue. Even if you could afford to stay in that mansion in Short Hills, you may not want to. Your kids are now in college, or they're about to graduate college, or they're emancipated. They're out of school. They have their own kids. Why would you want this big house? But it's losing your perspective on life, and it's very, very overwhelming. It's also then an issue for women about being over a certain age and who's going to want me. If your husband leaves you, right, then that impacts you feeling unwanted, abandoned, and rejected. When you're feeling so down, you don't have the mindset to now start talking about investments and growth options and bonds and stocks. So we have to together, work together to help these women almost compartmentalize what they need to do so they could move ahead.
Yeah, and carving out the time on their schedule to think about just themselves and their future, because like you said, they don't just lose their spouse and what was, they're also losing what they thought was going to be their future.
Absolutely.
You're mourning what you thought your future was going to be. And I always hear them say, well, we had these goals, but the we isn't there anymore. And that is a very emotional, scary moment. And
when they're thinking about later on in life, if you're getting divorced, retirement, that nest egg that you were saving, whether it's 401k or whatever investment options you had, you paid off your home, you were going to sell it, you were going to buy a place in Florida or Italy or wherever, that nest egg gets split in half. So many times that dream of what retirement was going to look like, unfortunately, needs to be rejiggered. It's not going to look the same. Does not mean that it can't look terrific, right? But it's overwhelming for people to say, my God, for the last 30 years, we worked day in and day out for this particular next step in our lives, and now it's gone.
Yeah, that is a tough thing to come to terms with. And that's exactly why my second book was Time to Refine, because we come to these moments in our life and we just know our life can never be the same, will never be the same, and we have to refine it. And what that looks like is going to be different for everybody, whether it's their money, their business, their home, or all aspects. But you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it without some guidance and support. And that's why we are here, not just to support you, but also our communities. Right. To support the women and to be among women who are going through exactly what you're going through is very powerful.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to bring our networks together and to bring the various professionals because, we are like triage nurses. I always like to say that because we, given what we do day in and day out and for how long we've been doing it, we're able to quickly identify what somebody needs, whether it's a little Band-Aid, a big Band-Aid, stitches, a connection, a GERT, whatever you need, we know, and we can go deep into our networks of vetted professionals to then assist these people because I'll tell you, and this happened in my own journey in life, if you don't have a team, you feel very, very alone, especially when your best friend, who you thought maybe was your husband, unfortunately is now with somebody else. So you now feel like the world is crumbling. You are overwhelmed. You're alone. Then there's the pandemic. Then we're all going to, God only knows what's going to happen. Your kids are grown. It's so much to take on. So although we will be with our participants in this webinar, I know that we're going to connect them to a much broader network.
Exactly. I always call it your roster. You need to have your team on hand, and you might not need them at that moment,
Yeah.
but just to know somebody that you can go to when that time comes, so that you're not scrambling, you're not reacting to something, but something happening. You're very proactive in your plan, because that saves a lot of time and energy and stress.
I've never seen anything more, I guess, inspirational to me in the work that I do than a woman getting a financial plan, from somebody like you, where you plug in, the alimony she's going to get for this time, the income she's going to earn, interest on her investments she's going to be getting, ultimately the Social Security she'll be collecting, and saying, oh wow, hold on, this is going to work. It's
Yes.
it's such an uplifting experience, and it's the opposite of the deer in the headlights. My God, my life is over. What am I going to do? I'm going to end up on the food stamp line. And our job is to make that happen for these women, to make that journey so much easier.
And I would guess, and you can answer, it probably helps them when they know what their financial future is going to look like to make better decisions with the divorce.
Absolutely, and that's why we start with something called a case information statement, which we'll be giving our ladies some homework. If you don't know what money's coming in, what money you're spending, what money you're saving, what your cash flow looks like, then you're headed nowhere, ladies, right? So we need to just stop. And if you don't have access to the information, well, that's great, because now we've identified that you need to get the information in. So I believe that what we're doing is taking them through really a journey that may be scary on their own, but
Yes.
when they get to the end and they see that these numbers are not as overwhelming as they think they are, they're going to feel very empowered. And by the way, if the numbers are not good, well, this is now a time to reevaluate that too. Maybe you can cut back. Maybe you could downsize on the car. Maybe, take a look at how you're spending. Maybe you don't need to be at the Starbucks, 5 days a week. There's different ways to refine, as you say.
There you go. Exactly. So it starts this Thursday at 7 p.m. We'll post the link for you to sign up. You get my book, you get some wine, you get happy hour on us, and it's 4 Thursdays in a row. We give you homework. You're going to get stuff done. If you could just carve out that little bit of time to focus on you again, your future, your money, your future relationships too, you're going to feel so much better. You're going to feel like you're moving, you're accomplishing things, and you're extremely inspirational, motivating, very energetic, Carolina, which I love your energy, and it's going to be a good time. We're going to be talking about some big things, but we're going to make it relatable, enjoyable, and very engaging too.
Absolutely. I'm just so excited. And you know what? 7-8 weeks ago, when the pandemic started, I said to myself, my God, what am I going to do? You are very social. I'm very social, always speaking somewhere at events, connecting with people. I cannot believe that I am sane 7-8 weeks later, and that I actually am enjoying this new normal, because we're connecting with so many more people. So the point of that example is, when something seems so overwhelming and you don't think you'll get through it, that's where our strength really comes out. And with the right team of people, my God, there's nothing that you can't accomplish. So I can't wait for Thursday. I'm getting my cocktail ready, but I'm going to water it down since we're presenting. But the cocktail for sure.
Perfect. Bring your cocktail, bring your wine, and we'll see everybody Thursday night. Thank you, Carolina.
Thank you. Looking forward. Bye.